Good morning, everybody. Greetings to Sao Paulo from St. Cloud, Minnesota. My name is Delene Strong, and I am the Latin America Sales Manager at Microbiologics. And with me for technical support, I have...
I'm Lori Conrad, and like Delene said, I work in technical support. It's nice to meet you.
And my sincerest apologies for not being able to be there in person. I was very, very sad that the weather was bad and the flights did not work out. So I'm hoping we'll be able to give you a good experience doing it like virtual reality. One thing that I always encourage is to please, if you ever have any questions, don't be afraid to raise your hand. We love taking questions. And we like to have a little fun with our presentations. So we will have 2 trivia questions throughout this next 90 minutes. And even though the prizes aren't there, but I will make sure they get sent to Plast Labor, and the winners will receive Stanley Staphylococcus. I'm not sure if you can see him, but this is our mascot. So to begin, I'm going to do just a brief review of Microbiologics and our products. And I'm unable to advance my, there we go. So Microbiologics was founded in 1971. During that time, we were a water testing lab, a food testing lab, a media manufacturer, and also provided quality control strains. But in the mid-90s, we decided to sell all that business and focus only on quality control. And we also knew that we would have customers in the international global market. And so we started working with several international distributors. And of course, for us in Brazil, our distributor is Plast Labor. And I do need to say that Plast Labor is one of the outstanding distributors we have around the world. They are very knowledgeable about our products. They invest a lot of time to come to our facility and really learn the whole technical part of our product. So never be afraid if you have questions or technical problems to be sure to reach out to Plast Labor, because they do have the training and the education and the experience to give you hands-on help. And we're very proud and honored to have Plast Labor as our sole distributor in Brazil. So as I mentioned, we do work with more than 140 distributors in over 140 countries throughout the world. Here are a couple of pictures of our facility. One is one of our laboratories, as you can tell, with the people in the white coats. And the other 2 pictures are of our inventory room and our shipping department. So at Microbiologics, our mission is to provide the highest quality biomaterials for a safer and healthier world. We do live by this statement every day. Our distributors live by this statement as well. And it is a goal really for us to honestly make the world a safer and healthier place. We want to be the world's most trusted provider We are very focused in the product design, and we deliver. And what that means is we listen to our customers, and if there's specific strains or there's a new test method or a new packaging customers need to be used in their lab, we will do everything we can to make that product for them. We have caring experts at the ready, and that's not just at Microbiologics. Our technical support, our customer service, everybody's fantastic, and it also relates to our distributors. And we strive to be world-class in expertise and excellence. One thing we do tell our customers is, out of your whole business in the pharmaceutical industries, quality control testing is a very important, very small part of what you do every day. But as you can see on this slide, it is the base of your foundation, and it is necessary to protect the brand, to protect the product, to protect the reputation of the pharmaceuticals. So the use of controls in the laboratories, the conditions are changing and challenges are increasing. As we see everywhere, increased recalls due to contamination. There are reports of misdiagnosis, managing the regulation landscape, which means, of course, the regulations are changing every day, and we work hard with Plast Labor to make sure we stay on top of all of these changes so we have the right products that you need to be in compliance with these changes. So again, due to all these changes, the stakes are high, and of course, your brand and reputation are at risk, meaning that you need to protect that, and we are going to do our part to help you protect your brand. We do serve 7 distinct markets, as you can see, and of course, we will focus on the pharmaceutical. We source our strains from a diverse network of culture collections. As you can see here, the primary ones are ATCC, American Type Culture Collection, MCTC, NCIMB, which are in the United Kingdom, and most recently we started working with the CDC. We provide more than 20 customer-focused formats. With our qualitative products, we have our Quick Sticks, our Quick Stick Plus, and so on. And I believe there are some samples of our products in the front of the room. We do have specific products for the food industry, which are called our Efficacy, which is a food process control, and also an Easy Score, which detects spoilage. We also have a product line called the E-Power, and this product line, provides different ranges of different strains. So the concentrations come in anywhere from 10 to the second up to 10 to the 8th. And we also provide the E-Power as a certified reference material. And this is for laboratories that are ISO 17025. We know that regulations are changing, that they need to use certified reference material when available. We also have a water testing product called the Easy Hydro Shot. And this is a quick dissolve pellet, and it provides a recovery of 20 to 100 CFU per pellet. We are seeing this beginning to be used in the pharmaceutical industry, obviously testing the water. We are beginning to get into the molecular market. We are seeing a high demand for the need of molecular controls for PCR. And then, of course, our pharmaceutical industry products. We have our Easy AccuShot, our one-step, Easy CFU and PEC. And here's a picture of the AccuShot. We will actually be going over this product and demonstrating it this afternoon. So I won't spend much time on this. Our Easy AccuShot Select is basically a kit that contains the top 5 compendial strains, 1 pellet per strain. And this product was designed for laboratories that do a very small volume of quality control testing. We do have our Easy CFU one-step. This comes with 20 pellets and 10 vials of hydrating fluid. It provides 8-hour stability once the inoculum is made. And I think this one we have to do I'm trying to think of the word, incubate.
Incubate, yes.
Yeah, this does require some incubation for 30 minutes, whereas, again, we'll spend time on the AccuShot, which that does not. Then we have our Easy CFU, and this provides 20 lyophilized pellets. This product was our very first enumerated product for a known concentration of 10 to 100 for growth promotion testing. And this provides a 90 tests per vial, so this is designated more for high-end users. And then we have an Easy Preservative Efficacy Control product. And then here's a genomic mycoplasma for mycoplasma testing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because we will do this as well this afternoon. And custom solutions is a service that we do provide, and we will spend a lot of time on this one as well. So I'm going to jump over that. So while I bring up the next presentation, does anyone have questions on our products or about microbiologics?
Oops.
Okay, I gotta bring up this one. I'm gonna find it. No, is that it? Because I have resolve. It said resolve. Okay, you're right, Larry. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay. Excuse me, all right, now we are going to talk about managing your environmental isolates. My PowerPoint's a little slow right now for some reason. What's going on? No. I'll get locked up on. Mario, are you there? Okay. Okay. All right. I'm having Do you want to ask him a trivia question? This is not. There we go. Okay. All right. So when it comes to managing environmental monitoring, here's a statement from the USDA. Good practice includes the periodic challenge of prepared media with low levels of organisms. This does include the USP indicator organism as well as normal flora. So after an isolate is identified, or after it's detected, then the identification of that isolate is very important. It's important to know what is in the clean room environment. It's important to know the effectiveness of cleaning and the sanitization products and the procedures. So making sure when the workbenches are being sprayed and wiped down, that those disinfectants are killing the bacteria that might be left over on the benches. And if an isolate is detected, being able to find the source of the contaminant, of where did it come from. And some sources of the contamination can be the people in the lab, the air, the water that's used, and even the processes. And then it's determining, is that isolate objectionable? And, Lori, what's CFR?
It's Code of Federal Regulations.
Okay, so according to the Code of Federal Regulations, each lot of a component, drug product container, or closure with potential for microbiological contamination that is objectionable in view of its intended use shall be subjected to microbiological tests before it's used. Appropriate written procedures designed to prevent objectionable organisms in drug products is not required to be sterile, shall be established and followed, and there shall be appropriate laboratory testing as necessary of each batch of drug product required to be free of objectionable organisms. So what that means is ultimately the laboratory needs to determine if the organism is objectionable or not. So if it's a sterile versus a non-sterile product, they need to find out with that organism the intended use of the product, who the intended recipients are, and what the route of administration of the drug is going to be. Do you have any comments, Lori?
Sure.
Yes.
So, intended recipient can make a big difference. If it's going to a baby, it would make a difference compared to a healthy adult, or if it's going to an older person. The route of administration makes a difference too. If it's a topical product that's used on the skin, you'd want to be wary of organisms like Staph aureus. And so all these things have to be taken into consideration when determining the risk of certain types of isolates that you find.
So managing risk with testing, there's the disinfectant challenge test, the growth promotion test, and the antimicrobial effectiveness test. And these tests, as you know, growth promotion test is required by USP. I'm not sure FDA, which one is that?
The antimicrobial.
Which one is a regulation by FDA?
I would say the FDA is interested in you doing all of those tests.
Okay. So as you can see, we have World Health Organization, the FDA, USP, which are the tests are either required by these organizations or highly recommended. So disinfectant challenge testing, and this comes from USP Chapter 38. It's the most frequently isolated organisms from an environmental monitoring program may be periodically subjected to use dilution testing with the agents used in the disinfection program to confirm their susceptibility, as there are real differences among different species in resistance to the lethal effects of different sanitizers. Routinely used disinfectants should be effective against the normal vegetative flora recovered from the facility. A sound disinfectant program can also include, or should include, a sporicidal agent. And this comes from the guidance for industry sterile drug products. Now, with environmental monitoring testing, we know that this is not a mandated regulation yet. So far in the United States, and I'm starting to hear it in a couple other countries, that the FDA is strongly advising drug manufacturers to ensure that they do have an environmental monitoring program implemented in their laboratories. So we're going to share with you a couple of warning letters that the FDA has written, and this information is public. Anyone can go to the FDA website to see who's received warning letters and so forth. So regarding a disinfectant testing, the FDA sent this letter to a facility stating, your response states that a supplemental disinfectant efficacy using mold spores of in-house isolates on various surfaces will be completed by, and they gave a date, and we suggest that this proposed study be conducted as soon as possible. An FDA observation, again regarding environmental monitoring, the firm was unable to provide scientific rationale for use of the selected organisms used in the disinfectant efficacy study. These organisms were not representative of organisms isolated from the facility, nor were they representative of the USP guidelines. So this in here, they found an objectionable organism, but the customer really wasn't establishing a testing program for those. And so what the FDA is saying here is the isolates that were found, just because they're not listed in the USP, does not mean that the laboratory should not be testing. So they're telling the lab, you need to test these even though USP is not telling you to. Growth promotion testing, the media used in the following tests should be capable of growing the organism for environmental monitoring, media fills, and sterility tests. This statement does come from USP Chapter 38 on aseptic processing. The growth promotion test is a procedure used to demonstrate the media in the microbiological environmental monitoring program or in media fill runs. They are capable of supporting growth of indicator microorganisms and of environmental isolates from samples obtained through the monitoring program or samples obtained from the corresponding ATCC strains. From the World Health Organization, in addition to standard bacterial and fungal species used for growth promotion and sterility test procedures, validation studies should demonstrate that bacterial or fungal species found in the production environment are detectable by the method the customer is using. Here's another FDA warning letter stating that a firm does not perform challenge testing to the sterility media with environmental isolates from the environmental monitoring program. So what they're telling them is the laboratory did identify their own environmental isolates, and the lab was not using those isolates to perform this challenge test and making it a part of an environmental monitoring program. So because this facility did not have these isolates a part of that test, they did receive a warning letter from the FDA. I'm not sure how many of you do antimicrobial effectiveness test, but anybody that, well, we'll just go through the process quick. So the antimicrobial effectiveness test is the standard battery of challenge organisms need not prevent the inclusion of other species of organisms if deemed useful to measure the biological activity of the preservation system for a specific product. Now, USP Chapter 51, which is about antimicrobial effectiveness testing, breaks down, how the test is performed, etc. And we actually provide a product that's called our preservative efficacy controls. And Laurie, if you want to add anything, say anything. That meet the requirement of USP 51 for the testing of preservatives. And did you want to add? And Laurie would like to add a couple comments, which is good. I welcome it.
No, I just wanted to add that if you did find an isolate in your laboratory and you did a risk analysis and you thought maybe that this particular isolate could be a problem if it got into your product, that you might want to test it using the antimicrobial effectiveness test in order to make sure your preservative will keep this microorganism in control, just to make sure it's not going to multiply inside your product, or that even that will kill the organism inside your product.
Thank you, Laurie. So when the laboratory is developing their environmental monitoring program, why not just use reference cultures? Number one, your isolates can become more resistant to a disinfectant. The isolates may need special conditions to grow, and environmental isolates can be harder to detect in your product. So wild strains versus domesticated strains. So it's kind of like a wild cat versus a house cat. So wild microorganisms are able to modify their properties according to their nutrient supply, and in particular, they are able to adapt to limited nutrients. And there is a strong argument that environmental isolates are the best challenge to media and for validation studies such as sterility test validation. They are the most sensitive microorganisms, having become recently exposed to the to disinfectants, particular soils, etc.
More like real life.
Yeah, like Lori mentioned, using the isolates in this type of testing is more of a reality because those strains are there and they're not domesticated. So when you find an environmental isolate in your lab, and you identify it and you decide that, we need to keep this so we can make it a part of our environmental monitoring test, you need to decide how you're going to preserve it. And there are many options. Professional preservation services, there's long-term preservation methods, and there's also short-term preservation methods. So for short-term preservation methods, this requires subculturing and refrigeration, which a good thing with that, it's low tech.
It's easy to do.
It's easier to do, but the bad side of this, it really does increase the risk of mutation of the isolate. It risks the contamination of the isolate. And again, for growth promotion testing, it needs to be 5 passages or less to meet the USP requirement. So with the whole subculturing, for people that preserve their own isolates, they have to make sure after the 5th subculture that they're starting with a fresh new isolate. Another short-term preservation method is sub-zero freezing, obtaining a minus 20-degree freezer. A good thing about that is the viability of the isolate can be maintained for 1 to 2 years. But the bad part of it is ice crystals and electrolyte fluctuations can damage the organisms. And again, there is risk of contamination because of taking it out of the freezer, letting it thaw to take a subculture to do the testing, putting it back in the freezer. And of course, the costs of the freezers and the maintenance of the freezers. Then we have long-term preservation methods. And with that, there's the ultra-low freezing and cryogenic freezing. And the good things about these is they do reduce the probability of mutation, and they can provide a longer survival rate of the isolate. The downside is it's labor intensive. It can be very, very expensive. The temperature on the freezers need to be monitored daily, and the freezers also can be vulnerable to power outages, and so, a backup generator system should really be implemented if for those laboratories doing this particular method. And then we know that some customers may also do their own lyophilization, and this does reduce the risk of intracellular ice crystallization. It halts all enzymatic and non-enzymatic reactions, and it's very easy to store. But the laboratories that do this, they have to have required special equipment. It is very labor intensive, and experimentation is required. And that's because, as you know, working in the labs, the strains react differently to different processes and different procedures, etc. Anything you want to add, Mike?
No, that's very good.
Okay. And then there are professional preservation services. And it just so happens that us at Microbiologics, we do provide this service. And it is called our custom solutions. And what we do is when a customer identifies an isolate in their laboratory, they will complete a form with a bunch of information and tell us the identity of the isolate. We determine if we can bring that isolate into our facility. And if we do, or we bring it in, then we do another identification of the isolate. If we find a different characterization or identity, we will go back and let the customer know, and it's the customer's decision on if they want to send a new isolate or if they want to go with how we identified it, or if they want us to continue with how they identified it. So once that's decided, then we send it on to a third-party identification company, and we use, it's called MEI, and they're located in the western part of the United States. And we also have began working with Charles Rivers, and they're on the east coast of the United States. So these facilities do a whole characterization of the isolates and provide, they provide the genotypic, phenotypic features and sequencing of the strain. And once they are done with that, and depending on what their identity of the isolate came back at, of course, we let the customer know before we do anything further. And then once the customer's happy and says, yes, this is the identity, this is the name of the isolate we need you to use, then we begin our whole lyophilization process. And when we do this, we try to be as close as to what the customer does in their laboratory. So that is why we ask the customers for what media they use, what the conditions are in their laboratory, what type of packaging needs they have to have, because we want to ensure when we manufacture the customer's isolate, it's almost as close as possible to the customer's laboratory conditions. And then, of course, we provide an established project timeline. So when we do our production, we begin with the seed stock, and we do maintain that seed stock. We do 3 phases of quality control checks. We do it before we do the preservation of the isolate. We do it after, or of the seed stock. We do it after the preservation. And then we do quality control again after the packaging. So as you can tell, that quality is very, very important to us. And we want to ensure that before we ship the isolate back to the customer and even our products to the customer, we go through this whole process to ensure there's been no contamination, there's been no mutation, and the organism continues to identify as what we're seeing it is. Then once we're done with that whole process, we package the customer's isolate to however they want. Some customers want quick stick, some customers want the AccuShot, some customers might need an e-power. So again, we package it to the customer's needs. We label the organism or the isolate by what the customer tells us. So the customers will select their own catalog number and so forth. We will maintain the isolates at our facility for future use. We do sign a confidentiality agreement with the customers and with the distributors. And right now, honestly, our custom solutions business is growing very rapidly, in part to the FDA with their strong suggestions of customers or pharmaceuticals implementing an environmental testing program, which includes the testing of objectionable organisms or their isolates. So the cost analysis for outsourcing or manual prep is very high. When we look at when laboratories try to maintain their own isolates, they have to take into consideration the handling, how many samples, how often they're doing their own identification to make sure there's been no mutation or contamination of the isolate, to make sure they're doing the proper quality control and keeping the records for the auditors. And now with us too, we provide all the documentation of the identification characteristics that the third party that we send it out to, they provide us with. So the customer will receive the documentation showing all of the characteristics of the identity of the strain. So if a customer is considering looking for someone to do the preservation of their isolates, we recommend that those laboratories are looking for companies that have proper accreditations. They have the experience in doing this, that they have the test-ready formats, the packaging that you need in your laboratory, that they have a quality reputation, that they can provide storage for the isolates and for the finished product, and of course technical support and service. And internationally for us, it's very important that the right distributors are in place to handle the importing process of not just isolates, but all the other products. And of course, product warranty. So some final thoughts are that all environmental isolates do pose risks in aseptic manufacturing. Current regulations require the use of isolates in testing, and managing isolates can be difficult and expensive, but there are people, not just microbiologics, but of course we want you to think of us, but there are other accredited providers out there to help you. So, how many questions do we have in the audience?
When we send a sample for you from our environmental testing, when you send it, like you are going to prepare the sample for us, this isolate for us, in which passage of the microorganism you are bringing it back to us? Because normally I will have like the second or the third passage when I send it for you. And how do you consider the passages in order for us to reuse this pallet when you send it back to me?
Unfortunately, it was very hard to hear that question, so I'm wondering if Mario or Leticia or someone could come up by the speaker to re-ask it. There's some type of sounds like a vacuum cleaner.
Or air.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. Right. I'll let you answer that.
What we need to know from you when we develop the product is how many passages you need it to be. So if you need it to be 2, we can make it 2 passages. Otherwise, it'd probably be 3 or 4. Probably 3 at the most, I would say.
I consider when I take it for the first time, this is the first passage, but I will probably need to strain it again to send it to you. So should we consider this passages that I have previous in my laboratory before sending it to you, or you are considering the passages since it comes for you in your company?
Okay, so the passages will only come into play after we've gone through the lyophilization process, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. So when we receive the isolate from the customer, it's going to be considered no passages. And once we're through our whole lyophilization process, by the time it gets to the customer, that isolate will be at about 3 passages.
We can make it 2.
Or we can do, like Lori mentioned, possibly 2. But the average will be between 2 to 3 passages after we are done with our lyophilization process, with our process.
Thank you.
We have 3 questions here.
Good.
I'll do the first one. So, about quick stage, what is the ideal time for maintenance of the strains to pass to another passage? From one passage to another passage. Is there a time to validate?
Okay.
How long in between one passage to another passage? How long do you suggest to do these steps? Is it necessary to do a validation about this time, this period of time?
We have a maintenance plan. We have a maintenance plan on our online. Is that what they're asking? How to maintain the organism? Maybe. So that you could keep it alive for a month, and then we would send more than one lyophilized pellet so that they could do their validation. Does that answer the question?
So when they get the quick stick Mario, and let's say they use it on September 1st, they're going to be, creating a new plate the next week from the original plate. So they we can use one quick fix, sometimes up to 4 weeks, but as long as, if they're using it for growth promotion testing, they have to make sure they keep those subcultures less than 5.
Yeah, and we have a plan online that tells them how to do this. And then once a month is up, they should get a new pellet, because we'd send several pellets at a time, and so they can do their validation and stay within that 5 passages.
Ok, thank you. Foi respondida a pergunta, ficou claro? So the second question, I think you already answered, because it's related to when you send isolate from your environmental, consider as in the first passage.
Yes.
Yes, it's considered as the first passage. Okay.
When the customer receives it, after we've lyophilized it, it will be between 2 and 3 passages.
So the third question is, for industry that produce products, non-sterilized products, they must test the environmental strength as well?
Yes. I think it's very important in the case of people producing non-sterile products, because they can have contaminants that can hurt the product or the people using the product also. There's been many studies done that have traced the contaminants over the years in products, and one of the most common organisms that causes a problem is Burkholderia cepacia, and it's been found in a lot of products such as mouthwash and also pharmaceutical products.
Okay. Hello. Nice to talk to you, and thanks so much for your presentation.
Wonderful.
I'd like to know if, for instance, I send you an isolate. I suppose it is isolate, but it's not really isolate. It's a mix. What will happen?
Mixed organisms.
That's a very good question. And I honestly, I would have to talk with our customs manager. I personally, Lori, have you ever heard this question before?
No, yours is the first. It's a good question.
Yeah. We've never heard that question about isolates given to us before. But I will talk with our customs people, and I will have an answer in the second segment this afternoon. And I would maybe assume that as long as the laboratory has identified mixed isolates, hopefully we should be able to do it as well. But I will talk with them and have an answer during the growth promotion presentation.
Okay, Dylan. So, no more questions here. If you have any other comments or questions?
Well, are there any questions about objectionable organisms, Mario? I know you had a little bit of a conversation this morning about objectionable organisms, so I'm wondering if there's the message you shared with me. I shared it with Lori.
Actually, it was just a comment during the presentation of the professional doctor.
Okay.
Comment from, I don't know who talked, I think it was...
Do you have anything you want to speak to?
Yeah. About the objectionable organisms, that the problem is not only related to the health of the patient, for example. When you have products, for example, maybe this objectionable organism could switch the color of the product, for example, and it's a problem for the companies, for the brands. For example, you have a product that the color is blue, and this organism can change the color for yellow. So that's it. The comment was about that.
Okay.
Yeah. It could make the product smelly too, so it smelled bad, which would also turn customers off. So organisms are up to a lot of mischief. Anyway, I just going to mention one other thing, Mario. We have, if you are making non-sterile products, and you're trying to decide if you should preserve an isolate or not for further testing, we have a decision tree online, and Mario can help you find it if you need help. But it's in our technical library, and it's a decision tree written by Scott Sutton, who was a famous person here in the United States in the pharmaceutical industry, and it helps you decide what to do when you find an environmental isolate. It takes into considerations questions like, is this organism objectionable? Is it a mold? And so forth, to help you decide what to do with that isolate.
Okay, Laurie, thank you. So just adding your comments, I think this question answers the third question that I think is important to know your objectionable organism, because maybe it can cause another kind of problems, not only related to the health of a patient or in a medication, for example.
Definitely, yes. Okay, so Mario, I have a question for the audience.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, Stanley would like to know where is Microbiologics located?
Raise your hands. Minnesota.
Yay! Stanley. Okay. Do you think we're really easy for the question? Okay, and Stanley has another question.
This one's just slightly harder.
He's photobombing.
Anyway, name one use you could do with an isolate that you find, one type of test you could do. What you could use it for.
Can you repeat, Laurie? Can you repeat your question again?
Okay, we named like 3 tests that you could use your environmental isolates for. 3 tests that the FDA recommended using them. And if you could just name one of those tests that you could use it for.
Growth promotion.
Yes!
Yay!
Woo!
The same winner.
What did he say?
Got a winner.
All right, congratulations.
Yay.
Okay, so are there any other last minute questions, Mario?
Mais alguma pergunta?
One more question. Yeah, we'll get one. Mario,
Yes.
Stanley has one more question.
Okay. Go ahead.
Where are you to obtain your microbiologics products from in Brazil?
Tough question.
Do we have a winner?
Yes, we have.
The Plast Labor.
Yay! I might ask that question again this afternoon.
Okay.
Okay, Mario, unless there's more questions, that concludes the environmental monitoring. This afternoon's more fun.
Okay, thank you. We'll be back later.
Okay, we'll talk to you in a couple hours.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.